A very happy Independence Day and welcome to the video brought to you by History Simplified and PalRishabh.com. This is Rishabh Pal and this video will explain India's freedom struggle. Let's dive right in. Let's begin by understanding the historical context. Our voyage starts during the mid 19th century, exactly at 1858, when the British government directly started ruling India. This would mark the beginning of the British Raj. So the British Raj would be an oppressive rule for about the next 2 centuries, and India found itself in the shackles of Great Britain. It was because of this that a feeling of freedom germinated in the heart of every person in the land. Let's understand this history from the very beginning to the very end in depth. So, once upon a time, there was a prosperous and cultural rich land, India. During this time, the East India Company was already exploiting India, although at 1858, the British government declared its rule in India and directly ruled India. It marked the beginning of the British Raj. Next up, the Indian National Congress. In December 28, 1885, the Indian National Congress was formally established, with Vomesh Chandra Banerjee serving as its first president. At first, it involved a moderate and gradual approach, in which it was a platform for demands for reforms in the rule. When this method did not work out well, it shifted to a more radical attempts and eventually self-rule. The year of 1905 in the history of the Indian independence struggle is remembered as the Partition of Bengal. It was made as an attempt to break the nationalism and create internal conflicts in the country. But in only a matter of 6 years, the action was undone as a response to increased riots and protests in the country. Alright, now we move on to the formation of the All India Muslim League. The All India Muslim League was formed by some known Muslim politicians, and the objective was for putting forward Muslim interests and securities in British India. Later, during the independence struggle, the Indian National Congress and the All India Muslim League had a pact for putting up several common political problems. Okay, let's remove the timeline for now. We are now transitioning to the Gandhian Era, which was a significant period of the Indian history. It lasted several decades, from around 1910 to 1942. The Gandhian Era is characterized by an era of non-violence and peaceful protests. In this period, the Quit India movement was involved. Let's have a look at the Satyagrahas. So the first Satyagraha dealt with the indigo farmers. It was the Champaran Satyagraha in 1917. The indigo workers were exploited and were paid with very low wages. A major problem was the Tinkathia system, which forced indigo farmers to grow indigo on some parts of the land. After Gandhi's Satyagraha, the peasants were relieved from the Tinkathia system. Since now with that we understood the Champaran Satyagraha, let's move to the second Satyagraha, the Ahmedabad Satyagraha. So the Ahmedabad Satyagraha in 1918 was a period when textile industry workers were exploited, had high working hours, poor working conditions and very less pay. The workers demanded a 50% hike in their wages. Gandhi said that the 50% hike was impractical and instead demanded 35% hike in the middle of the factory owners agreement, which was only a 20% hike, and the workers 50%. We may now move to our last Satyagraha, which is the Kheda Satyagraha. The last Satyagraha in late 1918 was the Kheda Satyagraha. It was a response to the heavy taxes by the government. Gandhi created a successful campaign in which many laborers wouldn't pay taxes until they were demanded, and it ended with the government allowing the skipping of taxes for the year. Now, let's move to the Quit India movement, the last of the Gandhian era. Okay, let's get the timeline back now. We are in the year of 1942, which was the beginning of the Quit India movement. Let's understand this in depth. On August 8, 1942, a mass civil disobedience movement was launched by the Indian National Congress under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi. A major factor leading to this mission is the growing frustration and the failure of the Cripps mission, and the fact that Britain had taken the soldiers of India for the World War II without the permission of major political figures. This involved Mahatma Gandhi's call for do or die in his Quit India speech. It urged Indians to rise against British oppression. Violent protests and strikes broke out, damaging of communication systems and transportation, and increased disobedience. The British also showed powerful suppression. Many of them were arrested, shot, and a massive count of people died during the movement. It aimed at direct independence, and despite this failure, it marked the beginning of more powerful movements ahead. Yes, this is the World War II. India, first of all, was a major contributor to the World War II, and about 4 million people from India died during the war. It participated a lot, especially in the African lands, resulting in the victory of the Allied powers. It was also due to the World War II that the independence of India was possible. The World War II left Britain bankrupt and thus disabled to maintain their powers in India. Now we move to 1947. The plan of Mountbatten involved the separation of India and Pakistan. It was accepted by the Indian National Congress and by the All India Muslim League, although it was opposed by Mahatma Gandhi. After heavy casualties and deaths, India received its independence on August 15, 1947.